Why in the world should you give thanks? Is there really anything going on in your life worthy of thank you? Hello, I'm Charles Cooper. You've probably seen me before, and if you haven't, this may be your first time. You get a chance to understand how great our God is, because that really is the focus. I suppose we can begin by asking a probative question. Why give thanks? It's the season, you know. Thanksgiving in America is when we say thank you to God and to country and to fellow man. But that may not be a spirit that you share. Why in the world should you give thanks? Is there really anything going on in your life worthy of thank you? We shouldn't assume that it is. After all, there are lots of people who live in America, the greatest country in the world, who don't share in all that it represents. There are those who perhaps have lost loved ones, as I think of a family just this week. It can be very difficult for them to celebrate in a thankful spirit given the loss of mama to her kids, a sister to brothers, a daughter to a mother. And I could probably go down a laundry list of the different impacts our society is having on people that makes Thanksgiving extremely difficult. Just not a popular word. Is there really anything to give thanks for? As an optimist, of course, I have to believe that there is. I believe the option of not having anything to give thanks is too depressing. It simply doesn't afford one the energy to want to get up and try it again. Thanksgiving is a beautiful word in the scriptures, Eucharisti. We use the word you. You hear it in eulogy or Eucharist. It means good, it comes from the Greek. Charisti, words, to give good words, words that are encouraging and benefiting. Typically in the New Testament, the word thanksgiving is usually couched in prayer language. As the Apostle Paul would say in Colossians chapter 4, verse 2, that we ought to pray without ceasing, that we ought to be ever engaged in praying. Then he gives the secret sauce. What is it that makes an attitude of ongoing alertness in prayer possible? The Apostle Paul says we ought to pray with, or the Greek will allow, in thanksgiving. As a kid growing up in Arkansas, Thanksgiving was one of those great holidays. Holidays were wrapped around family, and the center was usually grandmama. She usually did all the cooking. All of her children and grandchildren would come to her house for that Thanksgiving Day meal. We weren't really turkey people. Black people tended to eat what is called a hen. It's an oversized chicken. But it would be cooked, and cornbread dressing, country dressing, would be wrapped around it with chicken, and they would use, of course, as everyone does, the giblets, the heart and the liver of the chicken to make this gravy that would simply be delicious. The chicken was fine. The cornbread dressing was fine, with cranberry sauce, of course. But it was the gravy that made it outstanding. For some reason, it seems that my grandmother could only make it during Thanksgiving. It was usually the one holiday when you could count on it that there was going to be the secret sauce. I loved it, looked forward to it, and would eat as much as I could. Of course, everyone would. My great-grandmother simply had a knack for cooking. It was one of her God-given talents, as far as I'm concerned. It made the food delicious. It made it worth having. Similarly, the secret sauce of prayer and a life of freedom and hope is thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is what gives prayer the aroma of attractiveness to God. Thanksgiving is what bathes our petition, because the word actually used for prayer is petition. Beseeching God on behalf of ourselves or our family or our neighbor, and to those who are mature, our enemies. As we take issues to God, God seems to have an appeal or is attracted to the prayers that have the sauce of thanksgiving. In other words, the assurance that your prayers will not only be heard, but will be heard with the intent to answer, can be secured with thanksgiving. I know, as I started off with a laundry list of reasons why people may not feel in the spirit of thanksgiving. But you could and certainly should feel the need to pray. Because this is when you need the comfort of God. This is when you need the power that can only come from a sustaining power of God. In the midst of your crises, in the midst of your doubt, in the midst of your frustration and anxiety and your disappointment or whatever else, the only person that I know that can really do something about it is God. Therefore, I would beseech you to petition Him concerning whatever is in your heart. You don't have to fake it with Him. He already knows. He simply allows you to share what you feel with Him. Now, the secret sauce of praying when life is difficult, and it may be, is throwing in some thanksgiving. Because in reality, it can always be worse. It really can. You probably know someone whose situation or circumstance is worse. I had a couple who wanted to get married this week. I think he's in his 70s, she's in hers. They were both in the hospital at the same time. They both are sick and trying to manage life. Elderly people who through marriage would bring a little extra security, I suppose, in the legitimacy of their relationship. Sickness and poor health, not possible. Is it anything for them to give thanks for? You bet. While the contours of life have not yet shaped themselves to bring them the happiness they desire, they do have each other. That's my hope for you, that regardless of what is going on, good or bad, that you do have somebody. The supernatural presence of the Almighty God is assured, but also friends. If you find yourself friendless, I'd like to invite you to come over to Family Church. We have 5 locations. We have 12, 13 services on a weekend. We have them in Spanish, we have them in Portuguese, we have them in English. Somebody there will be your friend. Perhaps that's the secret sauce that will make Thanksgiving a reassurance for you. I give you my personal invitation. Come to the house where God lives and his people serve. It's why we